Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and if you are new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button because today, we are diving deep into something that affects almost all of us at some point in our lives, and that is why saying no feels so incredibly rude even when we know we should be setting boundaries. So let us get right into it. Because this is something that impacts our relationships, our mental health, and our overall quality of life in ways we might not even realize. The truth is that saying no should be one of the simplest things we do as human beings because it is just a two-letter word, yet for so many of us it feels like we are committing some terrible social crime when we utter it, and there are actually really deep psychological and social reasons why this happens that go way back to our childhood and the way we were raised in most cultures around the world. Think about it. When you were a kid, you were probably taught to be polite, to respect your elders, to share your toys, and to be helpful to others. And while these are all wonderful values to instill in children, they often came with an unspoken message that your needs and your boundaries were less important than keeping other people happy and comfortable. Children who said no were often labeled as difficult or defiant or bratty, and children who always said yes and went along with what adults wanted were praised as good kids, well-behaved, or easy. And this conditioning does not just disappear when we become adults, it gets hardwired into our brains as the correct way to behave in society. Another huge factor is what psychologists call the social contract, which is this unwritten set of rules that governs how we interact with each other in society. And one of the biggest rules in this social contract is reciprocity, which means that if someone does something for you, then you should do something for them in return, and this creates a sense of obligation that makes saying no feel like you are breaking the rules of civilized society, because when someone asks you for a favor or your time or your resources, there is this implicit expectation that you will say yes, especially if you have said yes to them before or if they have helped you in the past. The fear of being seen as selfish is also incredibly powerful in making us feel like saying no is rude. Because we live in a world where selfishness is viewed as one of the worst character traits you can have, and nobody wants to be seen as the person who only cares about themselves. So when we say no, even when we have perfectly legitimate reasons for doing so, there is this nagging voice in our head telling us that we are being selfish, that we are putting our own needs above others, and that makes us feel guilty and uncomfortable. What makes this even more complicated is that women in particular are socialized from a very young age to be accommodating and nurturing, and to put other people's needs before their own, and this is why research shows that women tend to have an even harder time saying no than men do, because there is an extra layer of social expectation that women should be nice and agreeable and supportive at all times, and when a woman does say no, she is often perceived more negatively than a man would be in the same situation, which reinforces the belief that saying no is rude or inappropriate. The fear of conflict is another massive reason why saying no feels so uncomfortable, because when you say no, you are potentially creating a situation where the other person might be disappointed or upset, or even angry with you, and most of us are conflict avoidant by nature because conflict is stressful and unpleasant. And we would much rather keep the peace than deal with the emotional fallout of someone being unhappy with us, so we say yes, even when we want to say no, just to avoid that uncomfortable confrontation. There is also the fear of missing out that plays into this, because when we say no to an invitation or an opportunity, there is always that little voice wondering if we are making a mistake, if we are going to regret it later, if we are going to miss out on something amazing, and this fear can make us say yes to things we do not actually want to do just because we do not want to risk missing out on a potentially good experience. The scarcity mindset is another factor that makes saying no feel risky, because when we believe that opportunities are limited, or that we might not get another chance, we feel pressure to say yes to everything that comes our way, even if we are already overextended or if the opportunity is not actually aligned with our goals or values. And this is especially common in professional settings, where people fear that saying no to a project or a meeting or extra work will make them seem uncommitted or not a team player, which could hurt their career prospects. Social media has also amplified this problem because we are constantly seeing curated versions of other people's lives where everyone seems to be doing everything, saying yes to every opportunity, attending every event, and living their best life, and this creates unrealistic expectations about how much we should be doing, and makes us feel like if we are saying no to things, then we are somehow failing at life or not living up to our potential. The interesting thing is that saying no is actually not rude at all when you think about it objectively, because setting boundaries and protecting your time and energy is a form of self-respect and honesty. And when you say yes to things you do not want to do or do not have capacity for, you are actually being dishonest, both with yourself and with the other person, because you are not giving them your genuine enthusiasm or your full attention, and you might end up resenting them or doing a poor job, which is not good for anyone involved. The reality is that people who are mature and emotionally intelligent will respect your no and understand that you have limits and priorities, and if someone gets genuinely angry or punishes you for setting a boundary, then that is actually a red flag about their character, not yours, because healthy relationships are built on mutual respect for each other's boundaries, not on one person being available and accommodating at all times regardless of their own needs. Learning to say no effectively is actually one of the most important skills you can develop for your mental health and your success in life, because when you say no to things that are not important or not aligned with your values, you create space to say yes to the things that really matter to you. And that is how you build a life that feels authentic and fulfilling, rather than one where you are constantly overwhelmed and resentful because you are living according to other people's expectations rather than your own. So how do we get better at saying no without feeling like we are being rude? Well, first we need to reframe how we think about it and recognize that saying no is not a rejection of the person. It is simply a boundary about what you can or cannot do, and you do not actually owe anyone a detailed explanation for your no. Because no is a complete sentence, although offering a brief explanation can sometimes help the other person understand where you are coming from without feeling personally rejected. Practice saying no in low-stakes situations. First, so that it becomes more comfortable, like declining a second helping of food or saying no to a salesperson, and as you build that muscle, it becomes easier to say no in more important situations. And remember that the temporary discomfort of saying no is almost always less painful than the long-term resentment and exhaustion that comes from constantly saying yes when you mean no. So there you have it, folks, the real reasons why saying no feels so rude, even though it absolutely does not have to be. And I hope this video has given you some insight into why you might struggle with this, and some ideas for how to get better at setting boundaries without guilt, because you deserve to have control over your time and your energy and the people who truly care about you will respect that. So if you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and let me know in the comments below what your biggest struggle is when it comes to saying no, because I would love to hear your experiences. And until next time, take care of yourself, set those boundaries, and remember that saying no to others sometimes means saying yes to yourself. Catch you in the next video. Bye everyone.